Good morning. I'm John Alman, President and CEO of the Westside Future Fund.
Good morning. I'm Benjamin Early.
And welcome to our 21st live Transform Westside Summit. We got a great show for you today. We've brought back Raising Expectations. They were here for our February 5th show, where unfortunately we had some technical difficulties, but we wanted to bring them back because they got such a great show and a great message, and you'll hear more from them later today.
Absolutely, John. And in addition to celebrating and hearing from these two dynamic women who are doing incredible work on the West Side, it's Women's History Month, man. We're celebrating women everywhere.
And some women up behind us right there.
We're celebrating the contributions women have made, both sung and unsung, throughout American history. And John, I know we'll hear back from you in a minute, but right now I want to bring in one of our own West Side sheroes, Miss Ebony Ford. How you doing this morning, Ebony?
Hey, Mr. Benjamin. I'm a shero, Mr. Benjamin. I'm sorry. I'm a shero. I got women's history on the brain, right? Thank you so much for being here. Good morning, everyone. Very happy for you to be here this early Friday morning with us. As these gentlemen have said, this is Women's History Month. We are excited. So as we know in the past, women's contributions have been largely overlooked. And we have in this country since 1987 spent the month of March celebrating and shining the spotlight on women and their contributions to this country and to this world. And we will be shining a particular spotlight on the ladies of, again, Raising Expectations. Ms. Tangi Allen, Ms. Maria Armstrong will be here with us again today, telling us all about their awesome work in the city of Atlanta and specifically on the west side of Atlanta. With that being said, I'd also like to call your attention to our bulletin for this morning's summit. And I'd also like to tell you about our vision for at Westside Future Fund, which is to create a community Dr. King would be proud to call home. Dr. King had a very deep, rich history on the West Side, which a lot of people may not really be aware of. So we definitely like to kind of continue the work that he did on this part, in this part of the city of Atlanta. And also our mission statement here at the Westside Future Fund is to advance a compassionate approach to neighborhood revitalization that creates a diverse, mixed income community, improves the quality of life for current and future residents, and elevates the historic West Side's unique history and culture. And also in our bulletin, we have a snapshot of our board of directors at the Westside Future Fund. And we also have, I think, a screenshot of our actual team at the Westside Future Fund. Let's have you call attention to that. And Benjamin?
That's right, Ebony. We do a lot of work here on the West Side, and we can't do it alone. We do it with the community, not to the community, and it takes a lot of people contributing to make that happen. Right now, I want you all to get engaged with us. We're on social. We're on Instagram. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. We're on YouTube. Whether you're tuning in through either of those channels, make sure that you go ahead and follow and subscribe. Send us your name and where you're coming from in the comment section below. We want to stay engaged. We want to get in touch. This is the virtual version of us passing the mic. Back in the days when COVID wasn't running rampant and we were still at the gathering spot, we would pass the mic around the room so that everybody could have a time to shine. So this is that virtual version of that. Go ahead, drop your name and where you're coming from in the comment section below. With that being said, Ebony, I know we're giving away some gift cards today. Tell us about them.
Yes, we are. So as some of you may or may not be aware of, the Home Depot has done a lot of work and contributions onto the west side of Atlanta, and the initiatives that we have going on, they have donated millions. And they are also, in addition to everything that they already do on the west side, they're also going to be giving a nice little surprise away to one of our viewers today. So if you have not already registered to have your name in the drawing for that, please go to our website, westsidefutures.org. On the home page, click on Event Spotlight, and then go ahead and RSVP there by 8:15 and have your name in the drawing for that Home Depot giveaway. And also, Goodwill of North Georgia has kind of entered this giveaway game we have going on here. And you can register for their giveaway the same way that you register for Home Depot. As I said, westsidefutures.org, Event Spotlight, RSVP by 8:15. Get your name in the drawing for that. And speaking of Goodwill of North Georgia, on our next summit, we will have the CEO, Mr. Keith Parker, will be here talking to us as well. So stay tuned. Stay with us today. Stay with us next time. Stay with us always. We always have a good summit lined up for you. With that, Benjamin, I think we're going into the devotion.
Absolutely. I love it, Ebony. Yes, so we got a great devotion planned for you guys this morning. It's actually coming from Pastor O of Cornerstone Church. He's also the founder of Portrait Coffee over in the West End, if you've been by there. But we traditionally start our devotions with a devotional statement, just, laying it out there what it's intended to be for. And so it's become our tradition to begin our meetings with a positive, inspirational message from a member of our community, recognizing that many in our community are driven by their spiritual faith to participate in the Westside revitalization effort. The time at the beginning of our meetings is an opportunity to share various inspirational reflections. While the speakers may articulate their personal faiths, it's meant to be inclusive, inspiring, and meaningful with the story of Nehemiah as our guide. With that being said, let's roll Pastor O's devotional statement.
Family, what's up? I'm John Onwachekwa. I am a resident of the West End. I pastor Cornerstone Church here in the West End, and I'm a business owner of Portrait Coffee, also here in the West End. So I am a resident of the West Side, invested. I love y'all. I love what's being done here. I love the fact that there's so many people invested to seeing a community rebuilt and changed. So, and I'm honored that I get a chance to start off our time here and just kind of help set the tone and the mood and the trajectory for the rest of where this day will go. So I'm going to start off, and just to give you a heads up, I'm going to read a passage out of Nehemiah, and I can promise you that as I read this, you're probably going to have no clue where I'm going, and it's going to seem like it's irrelevant and that there's not really a need for it. But I promise if you give me some time, I'll show you that we do need this, and it is actually helpful. All right, Nehemiah 3, verse 12. I'm going to come through on my promise, and it says this: beside him, Shallum, son of Halahesh, ruler of half of the district of Jerusalem, made repairs, he and his daughters. All right, like I said, we've been through this book back and forth for the past few years, but I promise it's going to be applicable to where we're going to go. Let's pray, and we'll ask for the Lord's blessing on our time. Father, we thank you that we get a chance to gather and to talk about how you have already been at work rebuilding the community that we're in, and ways in which you might continue to do work in and through us and partners and the like. So I pray that you would just give us open ears to celebrate the amazing things that have been done and to be challenged on how to move forward. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. So at the end of last year, I had an outpatient surgery. So I had a procedure done on my eyes, and I'm getting ready to leave and go home. And as the doctor is writing my prescription, he goes through the normal things that they say. Me being the type of guy that I am, I proceed to try to finish his sentence so that I can get out of there sooner. And I say, yeah. You're going to give me this, and I'm going to take it for the pain. And Dr. Ashroff looks at me and says, no, wait, John, no. I'm not writing out this prescription so that you can take it for the pain. I'm actually writing out this prescription so that you can take it before the pain. All right? So he's like, pain's gonna come. Once the stuff that I put on your eyes wears off, it's gonna hurt really, really bad. And so I want you to know that pain is coming, it's on its way, so therefore I'm gonna give you a prescription for you to take to preempt the pain that is already being Amazon primed to your eyelids right now, right? And I feel like it's that mindset that brings us to the Bible, specifically the book of Nehemiah, right? This is not some arbitrary prescription that we read and come to read actively after we already come to a roadblock, right? God is not in the business of giving prescriptions where there isn't a problem, right? We come to a text like this. This is not just some story that was written about a guy that led in the rebuilding of an ancient city for us to read and be inspired by and move on with our days. It actually feels like this is a prescription for us to be able to persevere and move through the obstacles that are inevitably going to come our way whenever we're involved in doing anything good or substantial, right? And so here's the obstacle that I want to draw our attention to today. Often when we think of people that have started to do great things and we think of obstacles to those great things, we usually think in terms of opposition, right? As we've been back and forth through the book of Nehemiah at the start of these things, from the start of these things, right? What we see is that Nehemiah and the group have a plan to rebuild, and you see opposition come from the outside. And this is an amazing story of how they overcome that opposition. But the reason why I read the text that I wanted to, or that I read today at the start of this thing was to highlight, look, there is an obstacle to very, very good work that precedes opposition, right? Opposition only comes when attention is drawn to that good work and there are people who don't like that attention, right? What Nehemiah 3 gives us, it's this little passage that seems obscure, but it's meant to drive home, or it's meant to help us persevere through the obstacle that is going to precede opposition. And the obstacle that precedes opposition is this: obscurity. Laboring through obscurity. Doing the hard work when there's no attention, when nobody comes alongside to pat you on the back, to congratulate you, when nobody checks for any of the work that you do. It's that laboring in obscurity that's often so hard to work through. And what I love about this text right here is we see not somebody that was resigned to obscurity. We see somebody, Shalom, who is the ruler of half of Jerusalem, leaving a seat of comfort and choosing to labor in obscurity because he sees there's something there, right? And in order to understand what that something is, you have to understand the context of Nehemiah 3, right? Nehemiah is not just some book about a guy who leads this large rebuilding effort, because at the end of the day, Nehemiah does get to work, but Nehemiah doesn't rebuild the whole wall. It's the community of folks that rebuild the whole wall. And chapter 3 really outlines how all of that rebuilding gets done. And one of the things that you'll see is if you read through the whole chapter, the words next to, alongside, or beside appear 30 times in that chapter. They rebuild an entire city in 52 days. Any of y'all that have ever worked with any type of contractor knows that is a miracle in and of itself. And so here's what takes place. This is not a story of this grand project that takes place that's achieved by these grand gestures. This is a story of a grand project that takes place, and it's achieved by a group of people laboring in obscurity and just doing the work that's right in front of them. And next to them, somebody else is doing the work that's right in front of them. And next to them, somebody else is doing the work that's right in front of them. This is not a tale of grand gestures. This is a tale of acorns and oak trees, right? Here's what you have. An acorn in and of itself seems very unimpressive. It seems small. It seems insignificant. And what you have is, if this acorn spends its time longing to be seen and appreciated for all the potential that's inside, that acorn will never be sown. And a seed that is always seen but never sown never produces an oak tree. In order for that acorn to fulfill its task and to produce an oak tree, that acorn has to be buried in the ground where there is no fanfare, there's no lights, there's nobody checking for what it's trying to do. It's buried in the ground, and it has to labor in obscurity for 2 decades before people can enjoy sitting in the shade of that oak tree. But if an acorn does that, if an acorn is okay to leave from a position of comfort and labor in obscurity for 2 decades, hear this, inside of that acorn is not just the potential to produce an oak tree, because you know what? An oak tree that's produced is going to drop acorns right next to it. And then those acorns can produce oak trees that are dropped, or that drop acorns right next to them, and so on and so forth. Within one acorn is the potential, not just to plant one oak tree, inside one acorn is the potential to litter an entire continent with oak trees. And the only thing that's needed to see that acorn thrive is simple consistency and steady perseverance. And that's why it's a pleasure for me to be here and to be able to share this truth on the front end of our time today, because it's not just like my friends, my sisters, Maria and Tangi, I feel like they don't just believe it, but they've embodied this with raising expectations, right? That what they've done is for close to 2 decades have invested their lives in the little black and brown boys and girls, the little black and brown acorns that are here on the West Side, because they know not to judge your work by its initial impact. It may seem very small, but we judge our work by its eventual yield, what could come from it. That's the only thing that could cause somebody like a Shalom to leave the lap of luxury and plant his life with his family and his daughters in obscurity and work for change, hoping that one day, decades down the line, his kids would be able to sit in the shade of the oak tree that he planted. That's the work that we get called into, those of us that have a heart or stake here on the West Side, to invest our lives and to be content with laboring in obscurity, knowing that it's only as we overcome that obstacle and move through that we do work that's going to outlive us. And so I'm excited that we get a chance to talk about how we're going to do that together.
That was awesome. Pastor O, thank you. Thank you so much for that devotion. The part that stood out to me of all of the awesome messages of that devotion was that God does not give prescriptions for things that we do not need, which means God gives us what we need, but we already knew that, didn't we? Thank you again, Pastor O. Really appreciate that. Needed that this morning. Now we're going to start our social check-in. Are we going to be looking at our Facebook feed at this point, Benjamin and John? I'm sorry. Or are we going straight to the panel with John?
I think you're coming right to me, Ebony. Thank you.
Okay. Hey, John, back at you. It's time for the panel. Very excited.
Hey, great job opening up our show this morning. Thank you so much. Really fantastic. And in the spirit of Women's History Month, I've got 5 women on stage making history. And we're going to do a panel discussion with them. I want to do their bios real quick, and they're also in your bulletin. But we have Tangi and Maria, the founders of Rising Expectation. They serve as instruments of change in the lives of economically and academically challenged youth in Metro Atlanta, and it's distinguished by their 360-degree approach to empower and cultivate the best in each student. And they develop youth holistically with a focus on building authentic, genuine, and long-term relationships with students, families, schools, communities, and partners. And we also have one of their board members, Naima Judge. Thank you for being here this morning. She's Managing Director and Market Investment Executive of Bank of America's Private Bank. And while in her hometown of Rochester, New York, she founded a community service organization called Women in Service Excellence, focused on mentoring and educating inner city young women. Thanks for being with us this morning. Faith Porter, she's a Project Elementary coordinator for Rising Expectation. She's been serving in her capacity with Rising Expectation for 2 years, passionate about child advocacy, and is committed to using her skills to assist Raising Expectations and fulfilling its missions. And finally, product of Rising Expectations, Natasha Ellis, an alumni, a 219 graduate of, and I've learned this, the Booker T. Washington High School, an alumni of Raising Expectations, as I said. Thanks for being here this morning. And she's benefited for over 14 years. So great panel. We're going to hear from her in just a moment, but we want to show you a video about Raising Expectations, and then we're going to come back to this panel live.
Raising Expectations is a youth development organization located inside the Families First facility space right now. We have been supporting kids on the Westside since 2004. In this wake of COVID, being able to find space for our children has been paramount to us in being able to support our kids.
Raising Expectations is fundamentally important to us, and it narrates every conversation we have with our children and families and partners. We're in our 25th year of service, and we've been able to impact the lives of thousands of children, and we've witnessed success.
We have a longitudinal model. We recruit our kids 3rd through 8th, and they stay with us as they matriculate through elementary, middle, and high school. And we keep track with them as they're in college. So we spend and invest a lot of time in relationships.
Most of the time that we spend with young people has been in the after-school setting. That 3 to 4 hour time frame that we have students is really a key and critical time that we can really close the learning and the opportunity gap.
Our job is to inform them, groom them, to be able to utilize this inherent skill called resilience.
And the whole year of 2020 has shown us that we all have to be prepared to pivot. So when coronavirus happened, it completely shifted us into a different space. We had to immediately problem solve.
We did not want to lose our family within the cloak of COVID.
The problems that our families are dealing with are dynamic and ever-changing, many of which are connected to economics. There are a lot of conditions that are outside of their control that impact them.
Our team identified 3 key areas. One was in food security, because many of our families are a part of the gig economy. They work in hotel industries, or they are mechanics on the side. Educational digital literacy was an issue in terms of supporting our kids because this is a new platform. The third issue was just rent and utilities.
When coronavirus started, we shifted everything to a virtual environment and platform, but when we found out that school was not going to be open for the 2021 school year, the kids and the families were already just overwhelmed with the experience and what's been happening. And many of them, along with some of the community leaders, communicated the need to have a place where kids could really come in and be supported in that way. So we created essentially a hybrid in-person school day. So having them here and working with our team and our staff, then they can continue their assignments and continue receiving the mentorship and that academic support.
We need organizations and partners that understand what it means to be a part of a collective impact. We cannot stand to lose our families. These communities, 30310, 30318, 30314, stand as a bedrock of the civil rights movement globally. If we do not have proactive conversations today about income inequality, we're going to pay the price of it, because at the end of the day, they're the Atlanta of the future. They're the workforce of the future.
I feel like part of our job is to educate the community on understanding, knowing, and valuing what it really takes to help move a family and a child out of poverty. You have to walk with that family and those children for years to help them navigate that process. And so it takes advocacy. It takes people in politics who are creating policies that end up really impacting lives in a positive way.
And it should not be about economics. It should not be about race. It should not be about any of that. I want Atlanta to continue to be that beacon of hope. And if you're about hard work, if you're about perseverance, if your heart is clear, you can make anything happen.
All right, that's a wonderful video on Raising Expectations. I think I may have mispronounced it earlier, so apologies for that. But we have about 20 minutes for our first segment of questions, and we're going to do another pre-recorded video. So I'd like to get to each of y'all, but want to start with the co-founders of Raising Expectations. I know I just keep having challenges with that. You've been at this a bit, and as women leaders, talk about how your leadership challenges have shifted over the years.
Well, first, thank you for that question, John. I will share with you, first of all, I believe that we believe actually that women are uniquely positioned for leadership. First of all, we're fierce, right? Secondly, we have a lens that has been textured by compassion, open dialogue, open to different perspectives, being flexible and nimble. That's inherent to being a woman leader. And then finally, and last but not least, I think the other thing is that we're decisive decision makers. When you're in the clutch, the thing that you want to have is a woman that's leading the conversation, I tend to believe. And so consequently, we've utilized all those skill sets with Raising Expectations over the last 25 years.
All right, in the clutch, we need a woman.
Absolutely, absolutely.
What do you think, Maria? Want to add on to that, or?
Oh, I 100% agree. I mean, we're built for this. We're raised by strong women that help us to be able to multitask and navigate, difficult, scenarios and waters. So, yeah, I think that's a good answer to that question.
Well, let me ask, it's off script, it's not in the pre-question, but I was reflecting, when I first met y'all, when I started with the Westside Future Fund, everyone's like, you gotta get to know, Raising Expectations. Yeah. But how do you feel like, I'm a man and others, do you feel like your leadership is not taken as seriously by men, being women?
That's a very good question as well. Naima, I don't know if you want to share some thoughts. I have some when you finish.
Sure, John, thank you. And I'm so excited to be here today. Look, I think for me, especially, being a corporate leader, yes, absolutely. The path is a little bit more difficult. Right, you feel that you have to outperform oftentimes, and really when you're pushing forward, it often gets tiring, right? So amongst all those other things that you're juggling, you're pushing hard, you're giving your 110%. But what I would say is it's extremely important. You said you're a man, right?
Yes.
To have men advocates, right? To have people who are there.
Right.
To help support those women leaders, whether it's in corporate or nonprofit. And so that's a critical piece for me. Well,
and thank you. I know I kind of came out of the unscripted environment with that question, but talk about, and maybe especially from both your volunteer leadership and the corporate, do you think the way women leaders are perceived and supported has shifted over the last decade or so? Do you think it's changing?
Yes. There are so many different programs. I mean, I've been in corporate for over 20 years, right? And the focus on women leadership, women development, women sponsorship, whether it's corporate or nonprofit, I think has really escalated, right? And I think that's better for the industry and better for the country, quite frankly.
We're doing a great job. I'm going to ask you one more question.
Okay.
I'll shift.
Okay.
But talk about as a leader of the board of the Westside that's my organization, Raising Expectations.
Yes.
Do you have any worries, any concerns that you want to make sure that as a board member, it's being addressed for Raising Expectations?
Yeah, thank you for that, John. I feel like I answer every question absolutely, right? Look, Raising Expectations is a phenomenal organization, and we do great work. And one of the reasons why I wanted to join and I'm so passionate is because I see what they're doing in the community, specifically with our young people, right? That's critical. But I think from my perspective, I actually chair our internal affairs committee. I work for a bank, and so I am doing the money aspect of the organization, right? And for me, I think one of my biggest concerns is funding.
Right.
Funding for our organization, being able to keep the lights on. We have amazing partners that help us do the programs, but we also need funding to take care of many of those administrative aspects. And the statistics will tell you that nonprofits led by women of color tend to be underfunded. So when
Right.
I think about concerns around that, especially from my stance as being a board member, that funding piece is critical.
No, I totally appreciate that. That's such an important thing. I'm going to hit it again because we know not only the statistic about women of color-led organizations are disadvantaged, but the community that's being served doesn't have the, most of the children and the families don't have the monetary means to kind of pay the full-on cost. And so that's why then the charitable funding becomes so important so this organization can serve families, because maybe in another part of our city, the families might have the resources to afford it. But Faith, I'm going to come to you with the question. I am going to go, and most of the women and girls that are served by Raising Expectations are women of color, and talk about you think that their experience and challenges are unique, and how you deal with that in your role.
I'll steal your term, absolutely, definitely. I think that the women that we serve and the girls that we serve, most of whom are of African descent, they are at the same time hyper visible and invisible. Black women shape culture in this country, but at the same time, oftentimes are treated with the least empathy. And the majority of our mothers being of African descent, being low income. It's amazing, you turn on the television and in the entertainment industry, you see so many things that are drawn from the culture of the families that we serve. But at the same time, there's this idea that maybe they're not taking enough personal responsibility or doing enough on their own. And so I think that the approach that we take as an organization, leading with respect and empathy, is so critical, because that's
Right.
treatment that many of our families are not used to.
Yeah, and that was a powerful frame, both visible and invisible. Did I say that? Mm-hmm. Yeah, you really capture a lot with that. So we'll come to the alumni of Raising Expectation. And so, graduate from Booker T. Washington, an associate's degree from Atlanta Metropolitan College, which is fantastic. So you kind of got dual degree there. So tell us what you're doing now.
So now I am currently at Fisk University. I am a junior since I attained my associate's degree in high school. So now I am a junior majoring in molecular biology with a concentration in cell science. It's quite a handful, but my ultimate goal is to become an immunologist.
Say it again.
An immunologist.
So you're studying molecular
Biology with the concentration.
Wow. Yeah, I know it's political science, liberal arts. So I'm always impressed. So what keeps you going? Like what's your North Star? It keeps you motivated?
For me, ever since I was little, I was practically raised by women. Miss Tangi and Miss Maria, I consider them aunts, my mother, and just to see them being strong-willed leaders, they're very empowering, and I know that that's something I want to be in the future. So that's really what's keeping me going, that type of motivation, that I can be exactly like these women.
So their role modeling provides inspiration for you, because you see someone that has achieved what you want to achieve for yourself.
Yes.
Yeah, that's great. Well, we're here, and everyone can see watching. We're practicing social distancing. We're unfortunately still in COVID. I don't know about any of y'all. I have not yet received the vaccine. But Tangi and Marie, whoever wants to kind of take that first, talk about how you've operated during COVID. The challenges and how you've overcome them.
That's a great question. We've changed a lot. I feel like we've probably had 7 or 8 different iterations of Raising Expectations since March of last year. But what I think is unique about us is we're positioned for this. The work of Raising Expectations has been on the ground for 25 years. And the way that we work with families and children and youth has always been set up to identify the needs that they have and remedy and create opportunities to remedy the challenges that they may have. So we've been, doing this for 25 years. We've been pivoting, we've been nimble, we've been flexible. And so at the top of March, when this happened in 2020, our team immediately went into action, and we were able to switch to a whole virtual program. And so we found out pretty early on that most people were having difficulty getting kids online, and we were succeeding at that. And so that's based on, again, the on-the-ground approach where we use our relationships with students and families. And so we did that. Summer came, we continued with the virtual format. We're thinking that the school year would turn into back to normal, and the kids could go back to school. And then came the news that APS would not open up. And so we had to find yet again another solution. And so we listened to the families, we listened to our community, and that's when we came up with the in-person school day program. We essentially created a hybrid approach. So we have an in-person model where kids come to us as if they were going to school, and then we have an in-person model where kids come after school. And now as kids are going back to school, we're just continuing to, adjust the model to make sure that we can still help our children and families.
And what's your sense of, for children in the Booker T. Washington culture that you serve, is, have we lost ground, or do you have any?
Yeah, wow. Yes, that is it's an incredibly important question that we're all gonna have to tackle in this country, in the city of Atlanta. There's a lot of learning time that has been lost. And we're gonna have to be really creative in finding ways to make that lost time up. And honestly, it's not going to be an endeavor that the schools alone can tackle.
Absolutely.
It's going to require, the collaborations of the nonprofit, philanthropic community, and the schools working together to close those gaps. And it's going to take us some time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, in the spirit of Women's History Month, Tanji, do you think that the women students, girl students, face special challenges that you're supporting, and how do you help them overcome them?
Well, in terms of having role models, yes. Of course, representation matters. It's always mattered. It's a matter of us making certain that we make it a priority to be sure our kids have people, in addition to obviously their mothers at home, to kind of look up to. And so consequently, yes, that is in fact an issue. And when they grow older and they're in the corporate America scenario, to Naima's point earlier, there are things they're going to have to contend with. We're hoping that when our young one over here comes of age, this will no longer be a conversation, right? Let's hope for that. But if that's not the case, our job is to prepare her for what could potentially happen as she grows older.
Absolutely.
I just want to echo on that point, right? There's a saying that you can't be what you can't see.
Right.
And I think that that's really important because we think about our young people today and we think about what they see as success, right? Whether it's athletes or entertainers or musicians. Mm-hmm. And that is success, absolutely. But oftentimes that seems unattainable, right? Because it's only one in 10,000 or 20,000 or 50,000 that achieve that level of success in those industries. So seeing people like Tangi and Maria on a day-to-day basis, back to that role model, seeing their success, seeing how they are investing in those women, being able to touch those women is so important. So I just wanted to kind of put a stamp on that point as well.
And thank you. And I remember when I first met Tangi and Maria, how long they had been leading Raising Expectation, but they looked so young. I was like, how could this be?
We started when we were mere embryos.
That's what I'm amazed. But you have really, you stuck with it, and you stuck with it with a good heart and a cheerful face. What, for each of you, what keeps you going? What's your North Stars? Because you're dealing with some of the most challenging situations for children, but yet you keep on keeping on. So what keeps you moving?
I have some thoughts.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, first and foremost, our staff, can we just say that Faith is one of many of our team members that are absolutely phenomenal. There would not be a Raising Expectations without having a dedicated team to work alongside of us that also ascribe to the same philosophical compass that we do. That's what makes Raising Expectations work. Mm-hmm. And as long as we have those, our quality team members that are part of Raising Expectations family, then we can continue to exist beyond 25 years. That was my immediate response to that.
Yeah, and for me, I believe in the underdog. I was raised to care and fight for people. And a lot of people, surrounded me with support and encouragement as I was growing up. So for me, it's about paying it forward. And that's just how I'm built, and that's how our team is built. And so what we want to do is to show the world that a child that comes from a certain community or may have a certain story or a certain family or a certain learning disability does not have to fail, right? They can have a successful life, and our job is to really coach that out of them
and to engage in that relationship over the long term, really, to make sure that we're helping them as they're dealing with and navigating with the challenges that exist every day in the neighborhood, in their schools, in their homes, et cetera.
Kind of comes with having military parents.
Yeah.
You can't leave
Yeah.
anybody on the field.
Well, you know, with those answers, Faith, what do you love working with raising expectations? Because I'm sure you could have other choices, but
There's a lot to love, honestly. The first thing that comes to mind is the focus on relationships. I mean, obviously, you know, we care about the results and we're data driven, but I think that the small interactions day to day with the kids and building trust in our relationships and trust with the families. You know, I've had families text me. I'm not a mother, but I got Mother's Day texts from some of our families. You know, I sent out a lot of texts to our moms. You know, a student yesterday, even with one of my team members, you know, she noticed that he seemed upset, and so she came with a bag full of notes, like, "You're a great teacher, I love you," that sort of thing. Students calling you and texting you. You know, some might say, like, "I have a busy work day, like, stop calling me, stop texting me." But the trust that, you know, that I've built over the time that I've spent with our students, that means so much to me. And the opportunity to see our students progress from elementary to the middle school program to the high school program, working with kids who are kind of at that bottom tier and seeing how the skills that I help them build now, the skills that my team, which is excellent, helps them build now, will help them as they, you know, progress to middle and high school and eventually to, you know, where Natasha is in
Right.
college. That means so much.
well, thinking, because so what I heard in your answer was seeing, you know, children all the way through, from the early grades all the way through high school, and having heard that answer, if you were talking to one of your very young friends, whether male or female, and they were thinking about going into raising expectations, why would you tell them to do it?
For me, it's not just academically, it's personally. They help personally, mentally, like with my family. It's not, when you go into after school, it's usually just, oh, you need help with your homework or
Right.
just academically. But with raising expectations, it's more than that. I know for me personally, they've helped a lot. I know if I would call Miss Tangi, I know she would answer. And if she didn't answer, she would call back and be like, "What's up, Tata?" Like, so it's just like Miss Faith was saying, it's that trust. Like, you know that you can trust them. You know that you can count on them. You know that even at the worst situations or instances, you can call them and they're there. So it's that.
So they're kind of, no matter what happens, you can reach out to them and they're going to go to bat for you.
Yes.
Wow, it's pretty cool. Well, I think what we want to do now, we're going to cut to one of our videos, but then we're going to come back to our panel discussion. And when we come back to our panel discussion, we're going to be taking questions live from our social media, so people can ask questions. So get ready for that. So we're going to cut to this video, and we'll be back in just a couple minutes.
Hi, my name is Jocelyn Reynolds. I am a senior computer science major at Spelman College. I am an alumna of Raising Expectations. I am an alumna of Booker T. Washington High School, and I am also a native of Atlanta, Georgia. What it means to me to be a Black woman in STEM is to break barriers within the technology field. I feel that there's not enough women in the technology field, so I wanted to do something different. Growing up on the west side of Atlanta, unfortunately I didn't get to really see women that look like me in STEM fields. So, essentially, I want to serve as an inspiration to those young Black females to say that it's possible, you can do it, I am living proof. The advice I would give to any woman seeking to go into a STEM field is to not allow anything or anyone, as well as yourself, to hold you back from doing what you want to do, such as stereotypes. I would also encourage women to go against the barrier. Don't be afraid to go against the barrier. Don't be afraid to break the glass ceiling. It's not about where you are, where you've been, it's about where you're going. Don't let your circumstances deter you from doing what you aspire to do. My journey with Raising Expectations started when I was 16 years old. I found out about the program through my family, my cousins who attended before me. They helped my cousin get a full ride to Morehouse. He got the opportunity to graduate with debt-free as well. It started with me just coming here regularly, doing my homework, things of that nature, and they saw that I was a natural leader, and so they had an opportunity to work at Atlanta City Hall with Councilman Andre Dickens, and get to see what it was like to be in politics and if that was something I wanted to do. While there at 16, I met Terry Lee, who is now the commissioner of the planning department at Atlanta City Hall. I got an internship with her 2 years later, working alongside her. Then Raising Expectations also helped me to ensure that my essays were revised and edited to where it would put me at a better advantage of getting accepted, as well as introducing me to certain individuals within their network to help put me at a better advantage of securing funds to go to school. They provided opportunity for me to be able to attend school and graduate without debt, thankfully. And I utilized all of that I've learned from them professionally and career-wise to secure two internships at AT&T my freshman and sophomore year of college, also Kohl's during product management, and now they've helped me to secure Cox Communications this summer. They've also they paid my rent for 2 months in a row, which is a major blessing. They've provided mental and emotional support through counseling, which helped me to stay motivated during the pandemic, and just empowerment to help me to continue to persevere through school. Being a Black woman in STEM, or just being a woman in general, is not the easiest thing. So just having them serving as a source of inspiration as well as empowerment was monumental. I don't know where I would be without Raising Expectations. If it wasn't for their guidance, their support, and their empowerment, I don't know where I would be. I wouldn't be where I am today, or in the state I am in today. They've played such a large role within shaping me into the woman I am today. They've played a big role in ensuring that I achieve all my goals and get to where I want to be in life, career-wise, just personal development, and more. Continue to donate to this organization. They're helping students like me that come from different backgrounds, things of that nature, to have a chance at a better life. What's next after graduation? So I'm actively seeking full-time roles within product management or project management. As a Black woman in the STEM field, I know that I can contribute a high-quality set of skills as well as a unique perspective. In addition to that, you will also be helping to diversify a male-dominated technical field.
All right, welcome back. Thank you for sticking with us. We're going to do a couple more questions, and then we're going to give you an opportunity to ask questions. So, in just a few minutes, if you're on one of our social media feeds, you can type in a question, and for our panelists, and we'll be able to hopefully direct that to them. But didn't y'all care to comment on the video we just watched? Any thoughts about?
That's another amazing, talented product of the Westside. The talent is within our young people. It's not that they don't have the capacity to do it. They just need the right people to support them along the way. And so it was there, and we're grateful that we had an opportunity to help to cultivate that. And soon she'll be another Spelman graduate. We had 2 Spelman graduates this past spring, and a Georgia State graduate. She'll be another Spelman grad, and she'll be in the computer science field, and she's actually going to get an amazing job. We're confident in that. And again, through our relationships, we have some friends that had an internship opportunity that was shared from Cox, and so we shared it with her. She got the internship opportunity, so we're just excited to see her continue to grow.
Wow. Well, my current volunteer board chair, Dr. Beverly Tatum, I was past president of Spelman, but all things Spelman, yay.
Yes, yes.
And yeah, we love Spelman. But especially, Tangie Marie, I was thinking how long you've been serving on the West Side. What do you see as like different today on the West Side than maybe you saw a decade ago or 15 years ago?
Wow. I think the investment, when we first started on the west side of Atlanta, there weren't a lot of people who were trying to be located on physically, whether it's from a residential capacity or from an investment capacity. There weren't a lot of people that were interested in what was going on the west side. There's an enormous amount of attention that's being paid on the west side. It's long overdue. We're excited about that. Now it's just a matter of articulating what is the plan of action. And that plan should be inclusive of our legacy families, quite frankly. That's one of the things that we are very concerned about and very intentional about. And thankfully, with investments from Westside Future Fund, with the resident retention strategy, with investments from United Way BET COVID funds, we've been able to ensure that even in the midst of COVID, that our parents can stay on the West Side, and that is extremely important to us.
Yeah, and some viewers may not know, why can't a parent stay on the West Side? What's the problem?
Oh,
That's
you want to talk about
well, you know, the community is changing. There's a lot of attention now. Property values are rising, and when that happens, people tend to sell their homes. People who've had dilapidated properties have just been sitting. Now they have, you know, they're interested in you know, bringing them up to code and selling them for money. And so most of the families we work with are renting. And so as those circumstances change and housing options become less available, then families are having to move out further and further away from the city core. And you know, what we know about families that we serve and the moms that we're working with is they want a good grocery store too.
Right.
They'd love to have a park, they want safety. So the very things that we have that are coming about right now, we're working, you know, very closely with you all and any other organization that can help us make sure that our parents can remain in the neighborhood and benefit from all that's coming and all that's here today.
You know, one of the things when I first started to work with the Westside Future Fund policy wonks call it naturally occurring affordable housing. You refer to it as dilapidated, but that naturally occurring affordable housing is often very cheap, you know, $350, $400 a month. And what you said is people moving in the community that have more economic means, the investors then are cashing in, so to speak, and families can no longer afford the rent. And one of the things I've come to really appreciate is families are working for very, very low wages. It's not that they're not working, it's just they're working
Absolutely.
for
Absolutely.
Right.
Even the properties that are not necessarily up to par, so to speak, they are charging astronomical rental amounts.
Right.
And it's far, far outpacing our household incomes of the families that we serve. And again, these are legacy residents. And so again, Natasha, an example, and hopefully we'll be able to show some of the videos from that. She and her family were able to stay on the West Side because of 1300 Mason Turner.
Right.
We cannot underscore how important that is to us. Just over the course of less than a year, we've been able to work with the home on the West Side and Kathleen's shop to secure 10 of our families on the West Side. These are parents that were literally on the fringes. They were on the line of having to contend with that fight or flight moment where you decide whether or not you're going to stay on the West Side and try to figure it out, or you're going to move to make certain that your kids and your family have somewhere to stay tomorrow.
Right.
And so those are the real life decisions our families, primarily moms, because 92% of raising expectations families are led by female single head of households. They're having to contend with those conversations and those decisions every day.
And I would add to that, John, you know, our cluster principals have been doing an amazing job in really turning our schools around and lifting up all the excellence in our schools from the Booker T. Washington High School all the way down. And I just have to say that we want to see the kids from this community be able to remain here to benefit from those amazing opportunities.
Yes.
Well, you mentioned Natasha, so maybe I'll ask you kind of the same question. Do you like the changes you see on the West Side? Do you know, not like them so much? What's your perspective?
I'm just glad that it's changing. I know that one of my mother's main concerns for us ever since we were young was safety. Where we used to live, it wasn't safe. There was shooting every night. There was just loud noises. It wasn't safe. And it was a big thing for her and for me, because living in a community where you see gang violence and gang relations and stuff like that, you kind of get scared because you're just in your mind, you're just like, I don't want my brother to be like that. I don't want my brother to end up in that situation. So her mindset or her goal for safety for us became my goal as well. So I guess that's what I'm trying to say is I'm really glad where we are now. As Ms. Tangi and Ms. Maria were saying, we reside in the 1300 apartments, and it meets the goal that my mother wanted for us, safety. And she feels safe, and she feels comfortable knowing that we're safe as well. So
you said, so growing up, did I hear you say you heard a lot of gunshots?
yes, sir.
So what's your earliest memory of a gunshot? How old were you?
So where I lived, there was a fence.
Yep.
And on the other side of the fence, there was it was like you could hear it. So when me and my brother would walk outside to go to our after school, which Raising Expectations, when they were at Kennedy Middle School, you literally saw the bullet shells so close to the fence. And you're thinking, that's what I heard last night. It was so close to me. And it scares you to know that that bullet could have went through the window at any time or any moment. So.
Well, because I heard no gunshots when I was growing up. So how do you think that affected you?
For me, it made me strong as a person. I recognize what's going on in my community. I know it's not right. I know that I want change. And it's one of the things that drives me today, because I want that change. So I'm making an effort. I'm putting in the effort. And it starts with me finishing like my education and just advancing so I can just give back to my community.
And those are like the basic critical things, right? You think about what Tangi and Maria are doing, trying to assist in all aspects, but definitely from an education perspective. But if you have fear, right, you lack safety.
Right.
If you're hungry, right, if those students are dealing with those things on a day-to-day basis, how are they able to learn and focus and excel and raise their expectations, right? So definitely I'm glad to hear that we have that positive change. But you think about those challenges that those students are facing on a day-to-day basis, those basic human needs that they need to be met, and how that can be a hindrance to them being able to excel academically.
Yeah, and I think for those of us that don't face those challenges in the same city, we don't always appreciate in the same city how different experiences can be. And one of the things I've learned is, repeated exposure to gunshots, right, activates your fight or flight. That then leads to kind of a traumatized, nerve system. And Faith, maybe for you, like for children, like Natasha, they're dealing with lots of external challenges. How do you reach and help those children?
So I think that Tangi made a great point about a little bit earlier in our program about the holistic development that we offer for our kids. And I think that it's impossible to educate a child without looking at other things they may be dealing with. To your point as well, I think that, if kids are hungry, we have food.
Right.
If kids, if parents are concerned about lights or rent, we do offer an application for rent and utility assistance, not only to keep parents on the west side, but just to enable students to make education their focus, to eliminate those barriers to academic success. Through our partnerships with Families First, we're offering counseling. I think that, our staff are very, trauma informed in the way that we approach the kids. Especially working with elementary schoolers, I encourage my staff, and they do a great job of staying in touch with their inner child and, looking at aspects of their childhood that may not have been the best, and trying to offer maybe what they did not have to the children that we serve, or emulating some of those aspects of their childhood or the people in their childhood who really poured into them. So I think that we take a very, very careful, we use a careful lens in our approach in working with our students.
Yeah, well, I appreciate how much thoughtfulness you're obviously bringing into it, so thank you. And I think, are you still out there, Benjamin? We're ready for some questions from our live audience. If you have,
John, I'm right here.
All right.
Yeah, so we're gonna do our social check-in now. So we're gonna pull up our Facebook feed right here on the back wall. And actually, I saw board member Tommy Lester checking in early on Facebook. Tommy, thank you for joining us. We also had Andre Dickens, who you saw in the video with Jocelyn checking in. Thank you, Mr. Dickens, for coming and showing your support. I have a question for Ms. Tangi and Ms. Maria. If you reflect back on your first year going through Raising Expectations and successfully making it through your first year, you guys have been at it for over 2 decades, so where you are now is a long shot away from where you were then. So reflect back on just what it felt like emotionally in any other way when you realize, okay, we have something here. This is my calling. This is what I'm choosing to do and dedicate my life to, and seeing the impact that you were having on people like Natasha in your first year, that first class of alumni coming from Raising Expectations.
I can start, Tanja, if you want. So we knew right away that we had something special because we were working with it was like one street indicator that had like tons of kids. And we would go and pick up a few kids, and we would tell them, like, don't get in the car, right, if you don't want to come to the library and do some math and reading. And they got in the car every time. And then they started telling more friends, so we had to ask more friends to come help us bring kids to the library. So here we are looking at kids who are coming from real difficult circumstances, from the type of poverty that most people can never understand, and they want to learn. So that was the fundamental belief that we had, that all children want to learn. They want to be successful. And so that became really clear right away, that they wanted to be a part of something. And once we started it, while we started thinking that we would leave once we graduated from college, we just at that point couldn't turn away from families and children that we began to build some amazing relationships with.
Yeah, I actually absolutely concur with what you just said. We believe in the possibilities thereof. It's very important. All of our children have the inherent opportunity to be great, and we believe fundamentally that they are. We provide that structure, that standard of excellence, that expectation of excellence that is not negotiable, right? We say this all the time. Mediocrity, we are allergic to it. So they don't like that part, but it's true. And I think that's a part of the military upbringing. And that's something that we had from day one, and it's still there now 25 years later.
Question for Ms. Naima Judge.
Okay.
In the same way that these two incredible ladies are reaching back and helping younger ladies and younger men within the community, it took work for them to get to this point where they could do that. So speaking from the perspective of a black female leader in corporate America, how does it feel, how gratifying is it for you to be able to do that same thing for these types of ladies, for people who are in a position to help other people within their community and they just need a little bit of assistance, whether it be funding, marketing, any other type of support, advice, whatever? Just speak to that.
Yeah, thank you. It's humbling. It is an honor. It is something that I absolutely cherish, and I find it so incredibly important. It is part of my passion. And so, part of my bio was that I, created a community service organization to help young women. And so for me, it's just an extension of, part of what I feel like my purpose is here. And it is extremely rewarding to be able to, lend whatever talents that I have, whatever knowledge that I have, whatever support that I have, whatever network that I have to these ladies to be able to really make a difference in the west side of Atlanta. And quite frankly, I've only been here for a little shy of 3 years. And just in that time, I've really just been blown away by the impact that they're making on the west side of Atlanta. So for me, I would go back to what I said at the beginning. It's an honor, it's humbling, and it really is, I think, part of my purpose.
Excellent.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I think we want to go, I see more like comments about how awesome y'all are than questions, which is
We get a lot of love shown for you guys today.
a testament, but I think we wanted to go to, we got one more video I think we wanted to watch.
Absolutely.
And then we'll
just
come back.
one more thing, John. If we didn't get to your questions today, there's no problem. You can still leave them in the comment section. We'll be sure to come back and holler at you folks.
Yeah, so absolutely. So if you have a question that didn't get answered or you want to put one there, we'll make sure on the follow-up.
Yeah.
And we're going to cut to a video for a couple minutes and we'll come back for some closing comments from our panelists.
My name is Alicia Ellis, and I'm a proud resident of Vine City.
Hello, my name is Jessica Hill. I'm a 2017 graduate of Booker T. Washington, and I'm a data analyst at DataWorks at Georgia Tech. And I've been with Raising Expectations for 14 years now.
My name is Edwin Ellis. It's nice to meet you folks. Anyways, I'm a graduating senior from Booker T. Washington. I've been affiliated with Raising Expectations for 14 years.
My name is Natasha Ellis. I am a 2019 graduate of Booker T. Washington High School, and I am a junior molecular biology major with a concentration in cell science at Fisk University. And I've been with Raising Expectations for 14 years.
As a resident here at 1300 Mason, it's a breath of fresh air. No doubt about it. It's a breath of fresh air. from start to finish. The affordability of this place is wonderful, and I appreciate that fact. And it's sad that people don't see that we do deserve that. We do want that. It's not a question. Everyone wants a affordable, safe, clean living space. You can't move up if you're not given that opportunity. And I appreciate Raising Expectations for providing us that opportunity, because I'm just like any other parent. We're out there working, grinding, trying to figure out how to keep our kids safe, a decent place to stay, giving them opportunities we never had, you know. And Raising Expectations brings that before, because at that time, before I moved here, I did not have ways to get my kids to certain things outside, you know, the cultural things in Atlanta. I did not have how to maneuver in the school system, considering my son being autistic, and I didn't know how to deal with that, who to talk to third. And RE, not only RE, Miss Lackley, shout out to Miss Lackley, they cemented that. They let them see that the potential they have, what they could do outside of this neighborhood, how far they could go. And I do appreciate that.
So I'm an alum of Booker T. Washington High School. After post-graduation, it has been a long journey for me, and Raising Expectations has been a big help going from high school all the way till now. So I've been working at DataWorks at Georgia Tech for about 2 years now. And it's been helping me to become a more responsible person. When I first started, I wasn't aware of the data analysis part, or the IT field in general. So being able to do all these things and just testing my limits, it's helped me to become a better person. And it's also helped me to understand myself a little better, because I never even thought that I could do these kinds of things. But DataWorks has helped me to see that anything is possible. So Raising Expectations introduced me to the Accelerated Atlanta initiative, which is to help better my credentials so I could go deeper into the IT field. Working at DataWorks as a data analyst is a jumpstart to my future career as a graphic designer. My ultimate goal is to work for MailChimp in the future, so that's one of my biggest goals right now.
RE has helped me in a lot of ways to get here. I've already been accepted into SCAD, but right now I'm trying to find a way to finance SCAD. I want to become a graphic designer like my sister, but it would be mostly catering to like video games or movies, such as Star Wars or Tolkien's Lord of the Rings.
All right, great video. Thank you for still being with us. We're getting near the end of our broadcast, so what we're going to do is have some final comments, and also we're going to go, back to Ebony to hear the winners of the Home Depot and the Goodwill North Georgia gift card. So stick around for that. But turning back to panelists, what I thought I would do is start with you, Natasha, but then kind of go through and end with Tangi. But as you reflect and know that people are watching what you've heard in the show today, and you think about what you want people really to take away from the show, some final comments about Raising Expectations or yourself, but just reflect when people are watching some of the fundamental things you really want people to remember and know about Raising Expectations.
I guess it's something Miss Tangi always tells me. She just told me that recently too. Don't be afraid to rely on your village. Like RE is my village. I am a product of the Westside. I'm a resident of the Westside. And just to take that with you, and when you take it with you in confidence, knowing that you're strong and that you don't have limitations or restrictions, that you can do and be anything.
So don't be afraid to rely on your village.
Yes.
Meaning kind of where you're from.
Yes.
Yeah, that's powerful. Thank you. Faith?
I think the biggest takeaway that I would like others to take from our conversation is the power of long-term investment. The relationships that we've built with our kids and our families have lasted. I mean, as the Ellises mentioned, they were affiliated with Raising Expectations for 14 years as of this year. And that's not common for many other organizations that serve similar purposes to Raising Expectations. But the results speak for themselves.
Right.
You may have a smaller group of families that you work with or a smaller group of children in your program, but you're doing a deeper dive in terms of the investment into not only their academics, but their lives.
And by long-term investment, you don't mean stock portfolio.
No.
You mean...
I would say, but...
you mean the long-term investment in the relationship.
Long-term investment in relationships, but the financial aspect is what enables us to do the work that we do.
But that is what's really special about raising expectations, is that long-term relationship investment.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah, I'd like to take it a little bit different and leave my words for Tangi and Maria, and those words would be thank you. I see what they do, and oftentimes it's thankless work, and they are in it. They're not just leaders of the organization, they are the organization. And so, the work that they put in, the children that they touch, the families that they elevate, often they do get thank yous, but their worth is a lot more than what you could see on paper. So I would just say thank you to Tangi and Maria for all they're doing.
All right, thank you. And yet I remember one, to your point, appreciating them as you remember this, we were doing some kind of an open house event, and it rained. And I remember y'all were so concerned people would get wet, how you drove around everyone, make sure everyone had an umbrella. I was like, holy cow, but I think it speaks to what you just said. So, so final thoughts?
Well, thank you for saying that, Naima. We do it with the village that we have that's a part of our team, Ms. Faith, Ms. Sean, Ms. Janelle, Mr. Wade, our amazing team members that help us to do this work. And I can't, I'm just extending that love back to them because it can't happen without them. But I would also say that the work that we do, we can't do it alone. We use partners a lot. We use a lot of partnerships, and those partnerships help us to fill in the gaps that families are having. And we also have partnerships where we're expanding our presence in the city. So working with the Atlanta Police Foundation at the At Promise Centers, we're at 2 of the locations. We're excited to be able to take the brand of raising expectations and share it with more children in the city. So I look forward to the future and what else raising expectations can do to be a part of this conversation in the city of Atlanta.
All right, leaving the West Side for the South Side.
Oh no,
right?
We're not leaving the West Side. No,
expanding.
Expanding.
Right, I'm sorry, catch myself there. Expanding to the South Side. All right, Tangi?
Yes, I think for me, what I would like for people to know about raising expectations and other organizations that are legacy organizations on the West Side is that we are well positioned to inform policy, to inform decisions that are going to have longitudinal impacts on the families that we serve today, tomorrow. And so we think and we feel, we're confident in that if people are open to that conversation and allowing us, as well as the people who are currently living there, to inform those decisions, the community will be all the better for it. So I think we've learned a lot. And again, everything that we do is undergirded by love. And again, thank you, Naima. I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna have a little moment here. And thank you, John.
Yes.
For today.
Well, no, y'all are, amazing, and I'm always left whenever I interact with you. We're just not doing enough to help you. So, on behalf of the Westside Future Fund, thank you for coming back, and thank you for sharing all of your stories. And thank you, for your story. When I was your age, I would have been completely terrified to be in front of a camera. So you're a very remarkable young woman. So thank you for being here today, and we look forward to our continued partnership.
Of course.
And thank you for your service on the board. And Faith, thank you. Mm-hmm. And we're going to cut back now to Ebony. Hopefully she's still out there, and she's going to tell us the winners of the gift card. So you're still with us? All right. Yeah, there you are.
Yes, I'm here. I'm not leaving. So ladies, thank you. Thank you so much, John. Thank you for leading that panel. That was awesome. Thank you, Benjamin. I mean, I just heard so many good things. I feel so inspired. I am a single mother as well, with a 5-year-old son. So just to hear these contributions and these accomplishments that you ladies are doing is just very, very inspiring. Thank you personally for being here today. And without further ado, yes, we want to thank our friends again from the Home Depot Foundation. They have again been excellent to us here on the West Side. And I think I have been texted the winner of the Home Depot raffle, and her name is Miss Almarie Brennan. Please excuse me if I'm not saying that exactly correct. Almarie Brennan is the winner of the Home Depot Foundation raffle. And also we do have our Goodwill of North Georgia drawing as well. And speaking of Goodwill of North Georgia, they are building a new location on Metropolitan Parkway. I think it's slated to be open later on this year in the fall. And if you do want to visit their website for updates, it is Goodwill NG, as in North Georgia, goodwillng.org/metro. And they'll have all the updates on there and things about job openings and trainings. And speaking of trainings at Goodwill, I actually am a recipient of one of the programs at Goodwill of North Georgia. I went to the Tech Bridge Coding Boot Camp last summer, actually. So personally want to thank, again, Goodwill of North Georgia. And without further ado, the winner of that raffle from Goodwill of North Georgia is Miss Gabriella Gonzalez Lamberson. Again, Miss Gabriella Gonzalez Lamberson. So congratulations, you two. Thank you for signing in and signing up, and enjoy your prize. And John?
Thank you, Ebony. Great to hear the winners. Thank you for doing that for us. And for those that are watching, thank you for watching our broadcast. Great show. We heard from 5 women that are making history. And as I kind of close out with comments, Natasha's final words are so powerful, to not be afraid to rely on your village. And really speaking to the spirit that I've so much find on the West Side, and just love about the work of the West Side, is the inspiration of meeting people. And also, if you were watching and want to help Raising Expectation, please check out their website. And they're always looking for support, whether that's volunteering or financial support. And thank you for watching today, and thank you for the crew for once again bringing us a great broadcast. And have a great weekend. We'll be back in a couple of weeks with the President and CEO of Goodwill North Georgia, Keith Parker. So hope to see you again. Thank you. What's going on? What are we doing?
Tell him that I ain't so crack. Know your money long when your people can't afford that. I'm ballin'. Yeah. My mama told me that did my calling. I keep that stick, I don't do no brawling. Open out the doors and let them all in here. Yeah, they all in here. Ooh, big dog. We come out the pound, so we big dog. Heavy paddock on it, break my wrist off. I'm young out of rocket, about to live dog. 3, 2, 1, I got big dog status, I'm a big